On today's show, we have a trade to discuss. Ottawa pulls the trigger to bring back a familiar face.
And the Ottawa Senators recall a couple of players for this long road trip, and we have an interview with two-time Stanley Cup champion, Andrew Ladd.
This is Brady Tkachuk, and you're listening to the Locked On Senators podcast.
Your Locked On Senators, your daily podcast on the Ottawa Senators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome. You are locked on to the Ottawa Senators. I'm Ross Levitan alongside Brandon Piller, and today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com and win $300 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Today is Tuesday, November 18th, and Pillsy, just yesterday, we asked what kind of depth options could be out there. Well, didn't take long for Steve Staios to make a move, sending Max Gannett to the Philadelphia Flyers in exchange for Dennis Gilbert.
Man, it's nice when you feel like you're right on a take, Ross. And we heard from people watching the premiere of our YouTube episode yesterday. As it was premiering and we were talking about it, the trade was announced, and I was sitting on my pedestal saying, look, guys, we can't get the impact player. We can't spend those assets. We got to make a move for a left shot defenseman that has NHL experience, won't bump Tyler Kleven out of the lineup, and preferably you can't pay too much for him. Maybe a guy like Max Gannett, who's sitting on the sidelines unsigned. Maybe that's a good trade chip that you can use to get that type of player. And you were joking, Ross, when you said, what, are they just going to reacquire Dennis Gilbert? I said, yeah, sure. Why not?
Well, there you have it. Dennis Gilbert is back, and he hasn't played an NHL game since leaving Ottawa as a free agent in the offseason. He was signed by the Philadelphia Flyers, but did play exclusively in the American Hockey League earlier this season. So for those saying, hey, you could have just claimed him on waivers, well, Ottawa wasn't in the predicament that they're in now with having lost Donovan Sabrango on waivers, and now the uncertainty around Thomas Chabot, who Travis Green would not confirm or deny was going to be going on the trip. We know Brady's on the trip, but the team left this morning. Where's Thomas Chabot? Is he with the boys, or is he back continuing his treatment at home? That's going to be a question we'll find out the answer to sooner than later, because the Senators will practice when they arrive in Anaheim later on this afternoon. But what are the Sens getting in Dennis Gilbert? It was a short stint in Ottawa last year. He was brought over in the Dylan Cousins trade, only got 4 games and 15 minutes of playing time, Pillsy? How much did he play for Ottawa?
I've got it right here. He played 52 minutes and 6 seconds, averaging 13 minutes and 2 seconds in those 4 games, where he had an assist.
In his career, he's got 111 games played, 20 points, 138 penalty minutes, 259 hits, and 146 block shots. Actually averaged above his career average in those 4 games with Ottawa, but he's a meat and potatoes type defenseman. I think he got in a fight, if I'm not mistaken, with the Sens as well. He's a hard hitter and a guy who I don't think you're going to see him as an everyday NHLer. I think that would be meaning that other things have gone wrong on the injury front, but he's a familiar guy who knows the system and was around the group through the playoffs last year. All accounts is that he's an absolute beauty, great team guy. So familiarity reigns supreme. And we're starting to see, I think, a bit of a trend with that of guys who, Steve Staios is comfortable bringing into this group. This is the definition of we need depth, but we don't want to disrupt the apple cart too much either. So I like the move. I don't think that it's a complete game changer, and who knows what the future holds in terms of if he's just going to sit in the press box. Is he going to be on waivers and reassigned to the American Hockey League if Thomas Chabot is back? Is he just insurance for that? Or do they legitimately see a world where he's a 7th defenseman and can be in the mix for an everyday spot? Because Matt Palo is obviously on a one-way deal. He's a guy who has played well and limited opportunity so far this season. But it's nice to kind of have Manti as a righty and then Gilbert as a lefty. You can kind of pick and play. It also just shows what we always knew. NHL coaches love lefty-righty. They played with the righty-righty pair for 3 games, and now they're like, no. Let's go get a lefty. They did. Dennis Gilbert is back.
Yeah, I think the familiarity does help. The cost efficiency, I think, was a big part too. Look, I'm not trying to downplay Max Gannett. We liked him on this show. We thought he had potential, but the matter of the fact is he just wasn't going to sign here. He wanted to go somewhere else. So that was an asset that you weren't going to be able to use internally. You had to use him for a trade. And at best, you're probably getting future considerations or a low pick just to kind of do him a favor to move him on. So to get someone in return that you're familiar with is good. Now, do I think Dennis Gilbert is going to be an absolute game changer? And this is the move that pushes the Ottawa Senators into a better spot to compete for the Stanley Cup? No. I mean, let's be honest here. But I think you need to add left shot defenseman depth. That was clear. This is a guy that has size, plays a physical game above puck moving. That's the kind of guy you want on your third pair. He's probably going to play just a handful of games when he's needed. He's already been through waivers, so it's likely if you have to send him down once Thomas Chabot is back, which I assume will be the case. I don't think Martin Palo is going to be the odd man out, like you mentioned, one-way guy that Travis Keane trusts. He just wants that lefty-righty combo. I think there's a good chance he's going to clear waivers, and then that's a guy that can really help out in Belleville as well. The left shot defenseman depth down there isn't strong either. It's a lot of young kids. So I think this is a move that makes sense, cost efficient, and just a nice tidy piece of business for Steve Staios. And Ross, he did not get into a fight with the Sens last year at 0 pimps. But this is the type of guy that you can expect to stand up for his teammates, I think, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And with Dennis Gilbert playing in the AHL this year, just 6 games, 1 assist, 6 penalty minutes, was +1 during that time. And we'll see how this affects the situation as the Senators have taken, feels like a bajillion players on this road trip with calling up a pair. Stephen Halliday and Lassi Thomson both called up. So you've got Gilbert on the trip. You've got 3 extra defensemen. So could this be more than just Thomas Chabot? Could this be Nick Jensen potentially needing a day off or 2? Those questions will all be answered in the coming days. But welcome back to the organization, Dennis Gilbert. Pillsy, we got to talk about Stephen Halliday coming up because something interesting happened throughout training camp that I wonder if it could be applied to Halliday if he gets in the lineup. Because it's not guaranteed he's going to play. You know, it's thousands of kilometers away. So you want to have a full complement. You don't want to have Matt Murray flying cross country on a commercial flight. That was actually a punishment. That was the bottom of the barrel of this organization that time. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that was done as a bit of a punishment too. Like Pierre Dorion sending Matt Murray down was that was meant to be a message.
That's so bad. I'm trying to remember exactly the time. It had to be in a November, right? Like feels like such a November thing to happen. But yeah, he played brutal against the San Jose Sharks on November 24th, 4 goals on 27 shots.
They always play the Sharks late November. That's a theme.
That got Matt Murray's record on the season to 0-6-0 in games that he played. His decisions were 0-5-0. He had an .890 save percentage. And they said, hey, you know what? We're actually good. You can just get yourself back to Ottawa and we'll deal with you later. That was different times for the organization.
And similar, like remember Michael Del Zotto, Uncle Deli, being told that he was sent down not because of his play or anything, but just to make an example because he was well liked by some of the younger players, and they hoped it would send a message by sending the fun uncle away from them for a while. And then he lit it up in Belleville, and then he was like, I'm done with this. I'm going to be a real estate agent in Florida.
Yeah, let me just change. They made him change career path.
That was crazy.
The last time Lassi Thomson went to Anaheim, which was where the Sens are going now, he got claimed off of waivers at the end of camp and then tried to open a pizzeria in Orange County.
Yeah, quick. Was it literally just that one game or did he play 2?
No, that was a preseason game. He didn't play any regular season.
No, I know. But did he play 1 or 2 you can't really find those stats either. They're tough to find.
No, which is reason number 500. The preseason doesn't matter at all. They don't even keep stats. My beer league has better stats available than preseason NHL.
Picks or it didn't happen. Your elite prospects has better stats than that.
Yo, relax. The capital V is so tough. That's ridiculous.
Ross Levitan.
Man, that's tough. Shout out the Ottawa Sting.
Sorry.
But no, with Lassi Thomson, he got stung in Anaheim and came right back, then went to Sweden, now came back again, and now he'll get an opportunity to be on the trip here in the National Hockey League. On the other side, I want to talk about Stephen Halliday, though, because I mentioned there is something interesting to note. We'll talk about that next. Plus, great interview coming up with Andrew Ladd. If you're a hockey parent of a young kid, you'll definitely want to pay attention or need a little motivation, because Andrew Ladd, captain for a long time with the Winnipeg Jets in the National Hockey League, and he won 2 Stanley Cups, including his rookie year with Carolina, and then the first of the 3 Chicago Blackhawks championships. Those conversations are next. You're listening to Locked On Senators, your team every day.
Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you miss the start of the game or you want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. Keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making a late push, or if your team's not playing for a couple days like the Ottawa Senators, you can be a hater and bet against Eastern Conference and Atlantic Division teams, hoping that they help the Sens in the standings. And right now, new customers to FanDuel are going to get $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA.
All right, Pilsy. So the Ottawa Senators are boots on the ground in Orange County. They will begin a season-long 7-game road trip that goes from Anaheim to San Jose, back to LA, and then crawls its way back to Ottawa with stops in Vegas and Dallas and St. Louis, wrapping up against the Montreal Canadiens. I flipped those St. Louis and Dallas games, but they are working their way east, and then they'll actually go further east than Ottawa to wrap up the road trip. But Pilsy, we talked about Lassi Thomson. If he gets in the lineup, you're just hoping for mistake minimal hockey, right? Like there's no elevated expectations, I don't think. No offense to Lassi, he's had a decent start in Belleville, but it's a warm body that can produce bottom pair results in the NHL.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm kind of hoping they let him play in Anaheim, Ross, and he has a heated revenge game up against the Ducks, being like, you see what you gave up, see what you could have had. Well, I'm back with my old team, and I'm showing you how it's done. That would be great, but I doubt he plays in the Anaheim game. But man, what a trip for Lassi and Stephen Halliday to get that call. Be like, guys, pack up your stuff. You're going to Cali with the boys in the PJ. Like that is awesome.
Yeah, it's certainly a great moment for those boys, especially Stephen Halliday, who is sitting on 0 NHL games. Could we get our first rookie lap of the season for the Ottawa Senators? That will be decided over the next number of days. You got to wonder, though, is this just an extra body, or is there something more to Lars Eller and Ridley Gregg, more so Eller as the fourth line center, missing practice as a, quote, maintenance day? Gotta wonder that. But the other thing I wonder, Pilsy, how often did we see Stephen Halliday ride shotgun with Tim Stützle, whether it was the call-up at practice last year or at the start of training camp this year? They always seem to have put Stephen Halliday in offensive situations when he's around the NHL club. So I'm just wondering, I'm not saying they should or they will, but I am curious if that is foreshadowing him being elevated as a plug and play guy in the top 6.
Well, Ross, if you had a nickel for every time that Stephen Halliday was paired up with Tim Stützle and the big boys, you would have 10 cents. But it is it is a pattern that it's happened 2 times out of 2 times. So that would be fun if that happened. Now, I don't think that Halliday being called up is a warm body type move, because he's the top player in Belleville, leads the team in points. 15
Disher.
assists. Yeah, Disher. Is that good? And he's one of the top point producers in the AHL. So you don't pluck that guy off your roster when you've got games up against the Marlies and the Laval Rocket coming up, 2 big, heated division rivals, which you need to win those games. So I got to think that there's a good opportunity that he ends up playing at least one game here, because, yeah, maybe Lars Eller isn't quite ready. I don't know if Ole Lycksell has been on the trip or not. We know he's been dealing with a concussion. He did skate yesterday, though. So then you look at Ridley Gregg. What's the situation there? Yeah, Lassi, I think, is more of a warm body extra guy, especially with Gilbert coming. Maybe they don't know if he's quite ready to slide into a game. They want to get him into a couple practices or something like that. But Stephen Halliday, different story, and I would love to see them give him an actual opportunity, not just on the fourth line, like you said.
And it just feels like he fits a bit more with scorers, right? With guys who he can dish the puck to, and that they can put it away. You know what I wouldn't mind seeing? If Lars Eller is out, and Lars has been great. Like, I'm not saying take him out of the lineup if he's ready to go. But if, let's say there's a world where Lars Eller is unavailable, Ridley Gregg, fourth line center. Move him back to the middle. See if you can get a little confidence out of him here. That's where his natural position is. He hasn't had a chance to play there with obviously the young, locked up centerman down the middle with Stützle, Cousins, and Pinto. So why not take this opportunity to create an extra layer of depth and have Ridley Gregg at center and start Halliday on the wing? I know Halliday's played center, but when he's in the NHL, like, it's either fourth line center or you're not in the middle of the ice. And I think that it's probably better for his skill set to play with better players rather than play in the middle of the ice. It might even be a benefit to play on the wing, because you're not going to be going up head-to-head against Leo Carlson or Mason McTavish, for example, if you're going up against the Anaheim Ducks, who all of a sudden are really strong down the middle. They got a veteran in Ryan Strome as their third option there too. So I do think that this might be an interesting follow of where Stephen Halliday would play in the lineup, and we'll wait and see what practice tells us later today. You can follow along at Sens Central on Twitter for the latest. Tomorrow, we're going to have a Wisconsin Sens segment. Great chat with Todd Molesky, who has been covering Wisconsin for 30 years, 3-0. He's seen a few things. We'll talk to him about some of the old Wisconsins that have gone through the program, and an update on how Logan Hensler, Blake Montgomery, Bruno Ejon, and Tyson Dick are faring in the early parts of this season. But we got a real interesting interview for you today, and I'm getting lots of comments at Sens Central saying, that's random, but I love it. Andrew Ladd is on the show today. An absolute beauty. Got the silver stick, over 1,000 games played in the National Hockey League, 2 Stanley Cup rings. And next time that we get him on, because we skimmed over it a little bit, but my favorite hockey team of all time, he was the 5th leading scorer. The 2005 World Junior team has to be the best hockey team ever assembled. Patrice Bergeron had already played a full NHL season before going to that World Juniors. It was during the lockout year. Sidney Crosby would have been an 18-year-old, or no, he would have been still in his draft year then. They had so much talent. Their decor was Dion Phaneuf, Shea Weber, Brent Seabrook, Cam Barker. Are you kidding me? Clark MacArthur was on that team too. They had Getzlaff. They had Perry. They had, as I mentioned, Bergeron, Crosby. How about Corey Perry? How about Ryan Getzlaff? Like, incredible up and down the lineup. So Andrew Ladd, huge part of that. And just a conversation, I'd say, about leadership more than anything. And Pilsy, we talk about this great program that he's got up and running that's absolutely free for hockey parents, hockey youth, U10, U13 players. So we're really excited to share the 1616 initiative. They're helping youth hockey players develop tools that they need to thrive, not just in hockey, but in life. and you can register for this program. We're going to put the link in the description below, 1616.org, and Andrew's going to discuss that in great details, what to expect if you are interested in having this mental and tools to succeed on the ice as well as off of it. So really excited about this one. So let's get to it right now. Here's our conversation with two-time Stanley Cup champion, Andrew Ladd.
Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at Rougiette. Let's be real, making excuses doesn't solve anything. We've all heard them before. It's just stress, I'm just tired, or it happens to everyone sometimes. But when it comes to performance, sometimes your body needs a little extra support. That's where Rougiette comes in. Rougiette.com offers fast-acting, doctor-prescribed treatments for ED designed to help you stop making excuses, start making moves. Rougiette, it makes it easy to get started. You just connect with a board-certified doctor 100% online. None of those awkward waiting rooms, no in-person appointments. If prescribed, your treatment ships discreetly straight to your door. The process is fast, simple, and private, and it's all handled by real doctors. It's about confidence, connection, and getting back to those moments that matter. Visit Rougiette.com/LockedOnNHL to get 15% off your first order. That's RUGIET.com/LockedOnNHL. Don't forget to use our code LockedOnNHL so they know the Locked On Senators podcast sent you. Rougiette, stop making excuses and start making moves.
All right, we now welcome a very, very special guest, a veteran of over 1,000 NHL games. He's a two-time Stanley Cup champion, a World Junior gold medalist on no doubt the best team Canada ever assembled for that event. He was a captain in Canada for a number of years, and now he's giving back to the next generation. Andrew Ladd, welcome to Locked On Senators. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you guys doing?
Fantastic. Well, this came across our desk. We saw the Sens Foundation posting about 1616, which is an initiative that you, your wife, and a number of people have gotten involved in. So to start, I'm curious how this came up and where you're planning on taking it.
Yeah, so it's funny, man. Like my mom used to say when I was growing up, she was like, "Oh, like if you want Andrew to do something, just tell me he can't do it." And that was a mindset I carried all the way through my NHL career. Until essentially it kind of like ran me into a wall. And I found myself like in the minors after multiple knee surgeries, and really just like struggling, frustrated, complaining about a lot of different things in my situation and what was going on. And you can imagine how I showed up as a teammate or as a parent and as a husband. And so it led me to working with a mental performance coach. And as I started to work with this mental performance coach, I started to understand like, oh, like there's a bunch of different mindsets available for me and tools that I can use to navigate the situation. So, you know, obviously you're 14 years into an NHL career and I've been captain. And you think like, oh, like I have all these great leadership qualities. And it was like, oh, like, no, there's still a lot to learn there. So because of that moment, my wife and I had always really supported mental health. It's impacted our families and friends, and I've lost teammates, I've lost trainers, and friends to it. So we always had this idea of like, hey, like how do we? Everything in the space seems very reactive and not proactive, and maybe it's just the athlete in me and my background. It was like as an athlete, you're always trying to build a foundation that, you know, that allows you to overcome any obstacles that you may face, whether that's during the season or over the course of your career. And the idea was like, okay, what if we can actually equip kids with these tools early on so they can understand how to navigate the challenges that are going to come their way. Because, you know, as we know, as adults, hey, like those challenges are inevitable, and the better equipped we are to handle those challenges, the better off we'll be and the stronger we'll be after we go through them. So it really kind of set the stage. So long story short, there was a weird year in the NHL with, like, remember the COVID year where they had taxi squads?
Yep.
Yeah.
So the Honors decided, hey, they didn't want me at the NHL team. They didn't want me in the minor league team. I think the minor leagues were only playing 15 games that year. So I would literally skate by myself every day. Like I remember texting Lou Lamoriello like at like 10 o'clock at night, be like, "Hey Lou, like what time can I skate tomorrow?" And I'd wait for the text back. And then, ping goes off my phone. I look at it. I'm like, he's like, "Oh, you can come in at 2 tomorrow." And I would literally go in, work out, skate by myself. And that was my daily routine. So in that moment, I was working with that same performance coach, and he was like, "Hey, like at the end of this year, like, hey, you can keep skating, working out, and now you'll stay in shape and maybe get another chance. But like, hey, what would you actually be proud of at the end of this year?" And like it stopped me in my tracks, and I was like, yeah, like it made me think, like, what actually would I be proud of? And that was essentially the idea to start 1616, and we built this program from the ground up to equip kids with the tools proactively to help them face a lot of different challenges that they're going to have in life.
Yeah, I think it's a great initiative, Andrew, especially starting young so they have those building blocks to base off. But when you mentioned that you got what was the title you used? Mental performance coach?
Yep. Yeah. Like mental performance coach, life coach, executive coaching, all in that same realm. Yeah.
Okay. When you decided to have a mental performance coach, at that time, was that still a bit of like a taboo thing in the hockey world? Like, were other guys that you knew and teammates and other players doing that, or was that kind of a unique thing?
I would say it wasn't taboo. I would say it wasn't as common as you would think. I think it, like, actually since I have started, it's become more and more common. I think as an athlete, there's like the wellness side of it, and then there's the performance side of it. And I think like when you're in the NHL, you're always looking for that extra 1%. And I think guys are starting to understand, like, oh, like the mental part of of the game and the grind of an NHL season, like it's so valuable to have someone to talk to and talk through any of the challenge that you're facing. So it is becoming much more mainstream within pro sports in general.
And in terms of your career, I mean, it must have started about as well as anybody could, not just the gold medal I mentioned, where you're on a team with Crosby, Bergeron, Getzlaf, Perry, the list goes on and on, former Senator Dion Phaneuf there too. And then you win a Stanley Cup your rookie season in the National Hockey League. So was it kind of just a high you were riding, and then maybe once the injury started, that sort of thing, you realized, like, was it ever on your radar before it kind of hit you like a ton of bricks?
No. And I think like when you have success with something, and doing something a certain way, now I realize, like, oh, it actually builds a blind spot. So you stop looking at all the different areas, like, hey, where you can grow and what you might be missing. It really was like my mindset was like a little bit of a bulldozer. So like, put your head down and grind and work. And like I said, it's not a bad mindset. It is definitely resourceful at times. But what I realized, like, oh, there's moments where that's not working. And that's essentially what I realized in that moment was like, oh, I'm grinding here and I'm just running into a wall consistently. Like, what else can I do to actually put myself in a position to overcome this obstacle that I'm facing?
Well, these kids, they're now having tools to deal with that at 1616. You can find more about it online, numerically 1616.org. And this is available for coaches and parents to do, right?
Yeah, like it is. It's a whole ecosystem, right? And I think there's differing opinions of the culture in sport, and there's some great things and some things that definitely need improvement. And in our mind, hey, that whole ecosystem needs to be addressed. So we need like the kids to understand the concepts and how they're important to them and be able to relate to them and understand where they show up in their life. And then also, like, we want parents and coaches to understand why those concepts are important as well and how to reinforce them. And I think what we realize even over the course of the program is a lot of parents and coaches just don't know what to say. They don't know what to communicate. So this program's kind of giving them handles on, like, hey, how to approach these topics, how to communicate them. It's spurring on more conversation, and the program is pretty simple. Like, the kids just watch a 5 to 7 minute video about an NHL player and their experience. It's a story about an NHL experience or player. And so it deals with confidence, connection, or character. So it could be like a resilience episode. They watch, a story about Zach Lavin, who was a sled hockey player, and his experience and what he overcame to to become an Olympic medalist, to understand the topic. And then there's content for the parents and coaches to be like, hey, this is how you can reinforce why this concept's important and the moments to look for, whether it's in games and practices, to really reconnect them to that concept.
And what are the parameters for people that can have access to this? You mentioned coaches, parents. Is it from certain age levels, certain competition levels, America, Canada? What are the costs included? Just kind of fill everyone in on who this is available to.
Yeah, it's available to anybody. The ideal age range would be U13 in Canada. U11s can get away with doing it, but 10 to 12 is really the ideal age. And it's that age because they're old enough to understand and grasp the concepts, but they're still young enough they still have that innocence, or they're not overly influenced by everything else going on in life. And it's free. So it's completely free to anybody who wants to join in that age group. You can join it as an individual. It's what I would say best practice would be to do it as a group. So with my team, like we go to practice, everybody's ready 15 minutes before practice, and we watch the 16-16 video together as a group, and then have a discussion after, a quick discussion, and then go on the ice and practice. And then I'm looking for ways to reinforce it. And I have a player, I have a tier 3 player, and I have a house player. That all in my family that I'm coaching, and we use it for every level. So it's literally out there for anybody. It's free. So you really have no excuse not to sign up.
What a great way to give back, man. And you've got an awesome lineup of former current pros. Anders Lee's a part of it, Blake Wheeler, Brent Seabrook, among others. And I think just that influence of seeing guys who have been there and done that the way you all have, I think that's such an awesome thing that you're doing to grow the game. I wanted to ask you this. We had Steve Stajos on last year. He also played 1,001 NHL games, just like yourself. And you talk about battling through that COVID year. Well, you found a home in Arizona, got 51 extra games that got you over that mark. Was that a big one that you were hoping to cross that 1,000 game threshold and get that silver stick?
Yeah, that was a big driver for when I ended up in the minors. That was kind of the one goal that I was like, I wanted to get to. So that was a big part of sticking in there and trying to get another chance to play, the extra, I guess, 51 games it was. And it was a grind. So I was like 7 games away, and I hurt my knee again, had surgery and limped through there the last 2 games. I still remember playing my 1,000th game and being like, oh, there's like a sigh of relief. I did it. And then it was like, oh shit, I got to play the next game too, because I got to do the ceremony. So,
you got to get the ceremony. You don't want to be getting that in a suit.
So I limped through the last one, and I'm thankful for Arizona for giving me that opportunity, and Bill Armstrong, and they were great to me.
That's awesome. When you look back at your career as well, were there any teammates that helped influence you the most? Maybe when you were younger, some of the vets on those Carolina teams?
Yeah, I think, man, like I was fortunate enough to play on some fantastic teams. So early on that Carolina team, whether it be like, Rod Brindamore, Kevin Adams, Ray Whitney, Mark Recchi, Glenn Wesley, even at a very young age, like Eric Stahl was a big influence. He was only a year older than me, but that's a great demographic, and you're always kind of finding, if you're in that in the NHL, it's like, who are you? And even in life, right? It's like, who am I around that's actually going to help me grow and help push me? And Eric was definitely that person for me early on. So, and man, I was lucky, like to have Rod Brindamore as a captain that first year, and see how we handled all the different things that happened, whether it be throughout the season or in playoffs, in those tough moments. And Edmonton coming back from down 3-1 to tie in Game 6, and just see how much it meant to those guys to be in that position, and the leadership in those moments had a lasting impact on me throughout my career.
That's awesome. One other guy I got to ask you about, just because we're obviously Locked On Senators, and growing up, one of my favorite players. You got to play with Marian Hossa too, and it was his 3rd straight trip to the Cup final when you were there. How much was that internally like, man, let's win it, not only for us, but this guy's been grinding through it the last couple of years.
Yeah, he was. We actually just saw him this past weekend at the Hall of Fame inductions. We were there for Duncan Keith, and obviously he's really good friends with Big Z too. Man, like when you think of like the consummate professional and like just a great teammate, great guy, good human being, and just a horse on the ice, like him getting up and down the ice and just like the power that he played with, and really one of the great power forwards of our generation. It was special to play with him. Like there was just such a calm nature about how he went about his business and how he treated everybody. And when you see someone who, at that point it was, already on his way to a Hall of Fame career and had been to the finals twice before, when you have a young group, man, that his demeanor and his energy just resonated throughout our room. So again, it's usually in those tough moments when things start to hit the fan a little bit that you need someone with that kind of presence and that kind of demeanor to really calm the group. And I thought he was just such a massive impact on that group.
Part of your career that I'm really interested in, Andrew, is you go from Chicago to Atlanta. You're named the captain there. You're there for 1 year, and then you move to Winnipeg. Like, what a whirlwind that must have been. Like, and especially as you as the captain, like it must have been crazy getting there, being named captain. You find out, hey, we're relocating, and then you go from Atlanta to Winnipeg, two very different places, and you got to be a leader throughout all this. Like, what was that experience like?
I think everyone just assumes that we knew it was going to happen, and that like we were on, like we knew, like, okay, it's a heads up that we're going to end up moving, and it wasn't the case. Like I think we literally like saw it come across the ticker, and we're like, what? Like we're going to Winnipeg?
When did you find out then?
Literally when everybody else did.
Jeez.
Wow. So it was an interesting time, that's for sure. So like, again, like and it was a lot of people's first year in Winnipeg, in Atlanta at that time. Like even the coach and the GM, like they're trying to build their foundation for how they want that team to look. And then everything's uprooted, and obviously you go to a new owner, and you're thinking that, hey, okay, like he's going to want his people. And so obviously you're resetting. So it was essentially like, it was almost like being traded, but then you still have the same group of people, but then different coach and GM. Luckily for me, I had Rick Dudley in Chicago when I was there in Atlanta, and then, hey, you go to Winnipeg and Kevin Cheveldayoff's there. And I have a relationship from him, from my time in Chicago as well. So that made the transition, and I had a high trust level for Chevy right away. So going in there, and then as far as the leadership component, like for me, I just wanted to make sure, hey, like we had an understanding as a group of like what this was going to be like from a ownership and management standpoint. And I had an early conversation with obviously Chevy, but with Mark Chipman too. And when you spend some time with Mark Chipman, you understand there's a lot of he's a high character person that really cares about that community in general. And instantly was like, yeah, like we're in good hands, and this organization will take care of us. And then, just on the ice, I think the big thing we're excited about when you're playing in a rink that's in Atlanta, we weren't a great team that year. The rink's half full. And then you're going to a city that's like the roof is literally going to blow off every time that you're stepping on the ice. I think that was something that we all kind of rallied around and really enjoyed, just the excitement and the energy that was happening in that city and getting that team back. And you could feel that right from the get-go. And
it took a couple of years, but what was the first whiteout experience like? Because I tell people, like, if you're coming to Winnipeg, you're coming for a whiteout, bring your sunglasses because it's bright in there.
Yeah, it's one of the epic things in sport, I would say, right? That that like you said, it took a little longer than we wanted to, but to experience that, stepping on the ice, and you're going out there for warm up, and it's like they're dropping the puck, and it was absolutely nuts. And that's what makes Winnipeg special, is like that environment that they create night in, night out. And I've been in a lot of different places in playoffs, and that's right up there in terms of one of the biggest moments for me.
And you wore the C there for a number of years. So final question for me, Andrew, really appreciate your time. And we, again, are just shocked at how this is free for kids and parents to go and check out 1616.org. I mean, it's such a leg up on the competition. And even just in terms of making yourself a better leader, And I want to talk about your leadership a little bit because we talk a lot. Ottawa named Brady Tkachuk captain at 21, 22 years old. He's clearly settled into this role, but you have a unique perspective of being a captain in Canada. So what are the different pressures? Because we hear players say it all the time, like, oh, captain in Canada, but what does it look like on a day-to-day basis from your view?
Yeah, there's I would say there's the external pressure is there, and then like the eyes are there. So like you're talking after every game, you're talking after every practice. And to me, it became like, okay, and actually I learned a lot from Paul Maurice coming in when I was in Winnipeg. I learned a lot of like, okay, cool. Like there's a lot of external noise on the outside. So like, hey, how do we as a group actually just focus on not let that enter our room and focus on what we're about in this room and what we're committed to day in, day out. So I think that was probably the biggest challenge that maybe doesn't happen in a few other places. And then it's like, you're just trying to figure out how, like, hey, how are you as a leader? And then how you can grow as a leader. I think leadership is such an active and live thing. And like I said, I got to a point in my career where you think you're like, oh, this great leader and you've been a captain and all these things. And you're like, oh man, like actually there's some things I can work on constantly. So I think, one of the things, that you appreciate just watching Brady is the passion and energy that he brings every day and every game to that organization, and they can feed on that. And I'm sure for him, one of the challenges might be to take that on all himself. And I know that I did that in Winnipeg, where like you feel all this pressure to like you need to lead everybody. And hey, there's moments where that happens, and like, hey, how do I create this group around me to do this with me? Like I was lucky enough to have Blake Wheeler and Dustin Byfuglien and Mark Stewart in Winnipeg, where it was like, hey, I can lean on them, and like we're doing this together. It's not just me leading the entire team. Like I want a really strong group around me to help make sure that this dressing room is ready to play night in, night out.
Yeah, I think that's a big reason why Claude Giroux was brought into this team. Having a guy like that is absolutely massive for Brady. And then Thomas Chabot, a longtime Senator, helps out as well. Final question for me, Andrew, is what's next for 16-16, and what is kind of the ultimate goal for you with this organization?
Yeah, I mean, so the ultimate goal for me is to be like the preeminent mental well-being program in sports in general. So we're obviously started with hockey. That's what I knew. That's what my connections are. And we've built, this is a multi-million-dollar program that we're giving away for free. And so the next step is really dialing it in. We've only been live for 3 years. We've doubled enrollment every year. So like, I think this year it looks like we're going to have over 500 teams across North America, which is thousands of kids, thousands of parents, thousands of coaches, which is awesome. So we want to make sure we dial in the experience that they're having first and foremost, and make sure that this is something that we can make kind of a blueprint for every sport. And then, there's so to me, that's where I want to go with the whole program. And I know it's a long journey. So we're committed to like constantly just tweaking and upgrading and making sure that we're creating an experience that people actually want to engage with. Anybody who's done like just certification in general for coaching and kids, and like a lot of it, my problem with it was that it's kind of like, hey, you do it for 2 days and then you forget about it because it was plain and boring and very academic. Like this is meant to be engaging in real life, and so that people, hey, actually are interested and want to be a part of it, not only this year but moving forward. So that is the goal. And
it's free.
It is free. Yes.
Free.
Yeah.
Well, hey, we feel really lucky to get the chance to chat with you. You obviously have such a great career under your belt, and it's awesome to see that you're looking to give back to the next generation. We'd love to have you back on, check in on how things are going at 16-16, get some more thoughts on the current NHL and everything. But this was fantastic. Great having you on. Thanks so much for the insight and everything that you're doing to help grow the game for the next generation.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Appreciate you having me.
Stick taps to Andrew for joining us. Really fun conversation there. And I mean, that just got me fired up, man. Like that's leadership personified. We're really happy we got to have that chat.
Yeah, and it's important. Maybe some people are like, oh, well, there wasn't really an Ottawa Senators angle to that, but we're trying to grow the game of hockey as a whole, and so is Andrew Ladd, and that's why it's so important. And 1616 is a free 10-week virtual mental well-being program designed specifically for young hockey players, their parents, and coaches. So everyone involved. 1616 was developed by the Ladd Foundation, a nonprofit founded by Andrew Ladd and his wife, Brandy. They help young players build confidence, character, and connection, both on and off the ice, through short, engaging weekly videos from pro players. It's easy to access, free to join, and supports your whole hockey community. So it's something that is important to everyone. And, whether you're playing competitive or what level of hockey you're at, it's a community and we all need to support each other. And what better
I might
way,
sign up.
Yeah. I mean, it's a good idea. What better way to learn about these important issues like your mental health and things that hockey players go through at all levels than to hear from pros who have experienced it. And this has been their lives for, if you're Andrew Ladd, 16 years of his life was being a pro hockey player. So just an awesome initiative by Andrew and his wife. And yeah, I know we've said it a bunch, but it is insane that this is something that he provides for free, because he puts a lot of time, effort, work, and money and funding into making this a good program.
We'll be back tomorrow. Mentioned earlier, we got Todd Maluski. I got Maleski. Got it. I got it hyphenate. We just chatted with him a couple minutes ago. So that'll be in tomorrow's episode. And we'll also get practice updates. How is this going to fit in? Because we know that Stephen Halliday wasn't just brought as an extra body. They already had an extra forward. Yep. So this will be interesting to see how it all fits in. For today, though, we say goodbye. Thanks so much for watching, listening, and engaging with the show. And go check out 1616.org and the great initiative by Andrew Ladd. For Brandon Piller, I'm Ross Levitan. This has been another edition of the Locked On Senators podcast, your team every day.